Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the Gamma Stories Instagram page. It's been a minute. I wanted to make a video talking about the start of Sarcoma Awareness Month, which, to my understanding, I think started a couple of days ago. I have been planning a video since before the start of it, but with work and other things going on, my family came down this weekend for, of all things, a Hawaiian-themed barbecue, which was really fun. I did like wings and mac and cheese, and me and my dad cooked brisket together. We smoked it. It came out really well, and it was a really nice time. So I've been getting ready to film this video, and the sort of point of this video is to provide some general information about sarcoma as an illness, to make you more aware of it, point out some of the symptoms so that you're sort of more you can spot them and recognize them, sort of correlate that to my sort of experience with it as well, and that's going to sort of be the prelude to a couple of things I've got planned for the rest of this month, which I'm really excited to talk about. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I made a video, but I have been busy. According to unsolicited advice I receive online, calls to action should be at the start of the video as well as at the end. So if you like these videos and you enjoy the content that I make, please feel free to leave a like or comment, like some sort of engagement. My light's already dead, which is really a great start. So if it started to flicker and I suddenly seem really dark, I don't know if that's God telling me not to be so shameless in my self-promotion. Anyway, so what is sarcoma? So sarcoma is a pretty rare type of cancer that makes up 1.4% of the yearly diagnoses of cancer in the UK. So it is pretty rare. It's a type of cancer that affects the soft tissue, and it can affect bone as well, like mine did. So about 15 people are diagnosed in the UK every day with the type of sarcoma, and that builds up to about 5,300 people every year getting that diagnosis. So it's a lot of people when you hear the numbers, but in the scale, like when you compare it to the prevalence of other illnesses or other types of cancer, it's quite a rare one, which means that I would make the case that it's probably slightly underrepresented in some areas of activism. So considering that it's the one that I got, I'm sort of compelled to talk about it more than others. So I'll be here just sort of, I don't know, making sure that we get not clout, but like people remember that we exist as well. We're still valid, even though there's not as many of us. It sounds like I'm making it sound like a fandom, which is ridiculous. But anywho, so there are three primary types of sarcoma. Because I have a tendency to waffle, I'm going to talk about the three primary ones. There are other secondary ones as well. I've not forgotten about them, but I'll just talk about the sort of main three. So you've got, yes, I do have notes because I am extremely forgetful. So if you see my gaze sort of flickering, that's where I'm looking. I'm going to try and pretend it's not obvious, but if I don't point it out, I'm going to feel awkward the whole time I'm filming this. So you've got osteosarcoma, which is the most common type of sarcoma. It tends to affect people that are under 20 years old. Most of the people that I did treatment with, and some of the influencers, the sort of cancer influencers that I talk to now, that had sarcoma, they had osteosarcoma. So it does tend to affect younger people. It can be pretty aggressive. I know people that have sort of lost limbs to it. It's pretty not nice. I mean, no form of sarcoma is nice. It is pretty aggressive, but osteo is quite intense. You've got I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. I think it's I'm gonna guess that it's chondrosarcoma, and that's one that adults tend to get. So if you're over the age of 40 and you do end up developing sarcoma, that's probably the type that you're gonna get as well. As someone who was treated on a young adults ward, I actually didn't meet anyone with chondrosarcoma. I don't know if it can develop in people my age, but I never got to meet anyone that did suffer from that. So it's one that I actually, this month I'm probably going to take the time to learn about a little bit more. I did get Shan to help me write out my notes and help me plan out this video. Talking about things and this sort of information, like the basic like scientific stuff about sarcoma, I'm okay talking about. the thing is, it's kind of hard to do research without looking at it, and things like survival rates and other sort of quite unpleasant information come up. That some of it I already know, but I just got quite anxious reading through it, so I had to get a little bit of help with that. So thank you, Sham, for basically helping make this video. Then you've got ewings, which is the one that I suffer from. Well, it's ewing sarcoma. I just, for some reason, I know a lot of other people do it as well, we call it ewings. I'm pretty sure some of my thumbnails on YouTube, or anywhere where there's a title, a few places I've said ewings instead of ewing. So sorry if that's confused anyone, but yeah, you've got ewing sarcoma, which is that tends to affect people that are sort of aged 10 to 20, and that is the reason for it tending to affect a lot younger people, is that it tends to happen when you've got mutations that are occurring during development. So kids and adolescents, they sort of experience growth spurts, periods of more intense growth, whereas when you're an adult, you're not really doing any of that. So that rapid growth can incur the mutations that lead to the development of sarcomas, which is why it tends to crop up in people that age. I'd like to point out that I'm only 5'4", so I feel a little bit hard done by, if I'm honest. If I turned out about 6 foot, at least 6 foot or near enough, I probably wouldn't have complained as much, because I did treatment with a lot of pretty tall people. And when it makes more sense there, because you can see the effect of sort of that rapid growth, and it makes sense. But I'm pretty small, so I kind of feel a little bit screwed over. I feel like I deserve to be a little bit taller if I was going to put up with this, but what can you do about it, really? But yeah, that's the reason that you see it crop up. That's the leading theory. Despite the treatment for sarcoma being pretty well developed, at least for ewings, there are still quite a lot of mysteries around exactly what causes it, whether there's any lifestyle effect, whether there's whether you're born with a genetic predisposition to developing sarcoma. Some parts of it we're still not sure about, and that's something that we're still sort of looking to learn about. So ewings in particular, I just did it again. I'm not going to keep correcting myself because we'll be here all day, but it's more common in men than it is with women. I'm not sure if that's because typically you might see, if you look at gender dimorphism, which is the genetic differences that you can witness in all sorts of members of the animal kingdom, including humans. Maybe there's a thing where bone or some tissues typically tend to be slightly more dense, there might be a great number of cells in your average male. So I don't know if that's the reason why. So higher number of cells means a greater number, a greater possibility for mutations. I think that's probably what might be the case. That's my understanding of why that happens. But again, with the mysteries around sarcoma, I guess it's the sort of thing that isn't really fully understood. It can develop in your bones or in your soft tissue. So in my case, it developed in the bone, the 8th rib down on the right side of my rib cage, which is actually a pretty rare placement. You're more likely to get it in your legs. So it's kind of weird that that's where it did crop up. I think so placement for people that I did know, most people who had it develop in their legs, like I say, and that was the same for osteo as well. But the other people who had ewings, they all had it in their rib cage, which is sort of the rare replacement for it, sort of up near the collarbone or sort of around the chest area. So even though it's slightly more common, it's you can get it there. I guess the ways that you would need to spot it. So when I first found it, it was a painful lump. It became painful because the bone attached to it had been basically slowly destroyed by the tumour as it formed, and that left it brittle enough to break. So a lot of, a big number of sarcoma diagnoses tend to follow a break in a bone. People go and get it checked out because they haven't noticed any other problems until the break, and then they spot that the sarcoma growing is the cause for that bone in particular breaking. So it's the sort of thing that can crop up like that. I'd say, in hindsight, I'm grateful for that bone breaking, because the pain was so intense that I couldn't even attempt to ignore it. I said before in the videos that I've made in the past that the pain from that break was so intense that I I stopped going into work. I was on really strong painkillers just to get through the day, like simply just laying there. I was in pain. It was ridiculous. I mean, I still have a small level of chronic pain at times from my surgery, which is, as you would guess, in the same area, but it doesn't even compare to the amount of pain I was in. And then when I had my rib resection as well, that was probably the most painful when I went in for the surgery, but it's almost like a trade-off, isn't it? I go through that pain there, and then it's a lot less following that point. Some other symptoms that are worth looking out for as well is having a high temperature that doesn't go away. So like you might be a bit fluey, and maybe if you start feeling that way, just sort of check yourself. I mean, it's the sort of thing that everyone should learn to do in like most areas. I know there's sort of some people who feel a little bit awkward about it, but honestly, just checking yourself out, and if there's anything out of the ordinary, just going to get it checked out. I mean, with everything going on, at the minute, it's probably slightly harder. I wouldn't say harder, but there's probably a slightly longer waiting time to go and get things that aren't quite as obvious checked out, especially as a young person. Like if there's a lump that's bothering you, or you just don't feel right, you might have a harder time getting people to sort of take that seriously. So be persistent. I think that's the key thing whenever you go and get anything checked out, is to be persistent, because your own body, and you're going to know if there's something wrong. Feeling tired all the time as well is a pretty big one. I feel tired all the time now, but that's because my painkillers and effects that are left over from the chemo that I did. But if out of nowhere you start feeling tired all the time, like more so than usual, that can be a sign that you should go and get checked over. And then as well, like I said before, so bones, like the bones that are affected, if this is a bone version and not a muscle one, those can get weaker and those can break. So if you do have a break, don't try and tough through it, and make sure that you get a thorough job of getting it checked over. So at the point of diagnosis, so what is the plan from there? The treatment plan that I followed, so I did 9 months of VDC, i.e. chemotherapy, so those were alternating cycles, where I'd go in for a day to have 3 of my chemos, then I'd have a 2-week break, then I'd stay at my treatment centre or nearby, and then I'd go in each day to my treatment centre for 5 days for the IE chemo. The treatment itself for that, a lot of the comfort aspects, or like the medication to sort of help with side effects and your levels of comfort, those have changed a lot, but this sort of VDC IE cycle itself hasn't really changed a lot for quite a few years, because oncologists do see pretty good results. I'm speaking like from the perspective of ewings now. I can't say for definite how similar it is to osteo, especially because everyone has their own treatment plan anyway. Things with other people I know that have ewings, they don't follow the exact same anyway. Another thing that a lot of people have as well is radiotherapy, and that tends to follow after you have surgery, but it depends a lot on your histology, and that's why I can't speak to that experience. So I was really lucky. My histology came back with as 100% necrosis, which means that chemotherapy had killed off every living sarcoma cell that was existing in my body, and to the point where radiotherapy wasn't necessary. So post-op I didn't do any radio, I just did the last of my chemo. They do that because if you have all of your chemo and then your surgery and your histology comes back and not everything's dead, then it's harder for them to reevaluate and to create a plan and make sure that the treatment that they're doing for you is exactly what you need. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well, is that treatment plans tend to vary a lot, and that's not necessarily because something's gone horribly wrong. It's just that when your treatment is tailored to you and your particular needs and to the results of the tests you frequently do, it gives you the best chances, and it just means that your health is managed in the best way, really. that's really gone to 15 minutes already, and I really didn't think that I'd waffle that much, so I apologise for that. But that's sort of a general rundown of what sarcoma is, and this is just sort of a kick-off to some of the things I've got planned this month. Probably be updating more around next weekend or throughout the week, but I have a new product that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. I'm just getting approval, I'm consulting work to make sure that there's no sort of conflicts of interest with me bringing anything out like this. There wasn't when I released the Circle, which is really good, so you should go buy it. See, I've got to do the plugs at the end. I've got to tell people to do stuff at the end as well, apparently. So I just realised I don't think I did that mistake. In the first one, I did calls to action at the start of the video, so that probably seems completely out of place, me doing a call to action then as though I did it earlier. But I'll do that in a minute. It's less important than just getting the information out there anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to be releasing more information about it at the minute. I'm messing this up now. In the near future, there's going to be some more information. I'm really excited about it. There's going to be a few things that I'm planning on bringing out. So, yeah, watch the space for updates. As always, I really appreciate it if you could engage with this video in any sort of way, like liking, sharing, particularly to people that you think would find this information useful. It's not about growing a massive audience, it's about growing one that sort of incorporates all of the people that benefit from this information the most. So anything like that would be really appreciated. The Gamma Stories Instagram page is always open if you want to have a private discussion, or if you want to leave a comment and have a more open public one, then the comments on this video is the perfect place to do it. Failing that, I will see you all when I have more updates. So yeah, throughout this month, just keep a thought for those that are going through this sort of treatment and their families. Whenever you get a spare moment, any prayers, anything like that, just for those that are still going through treatment, is very much appreciated, even by me as someone who's not doing treatment anymore. So yeah, that being said, I hope the rest of the week goes well, and I'll catch up with you all soon. Take care, everyone.